that is to say, I am happy to have anyone interrupt me, ask questions, say, how does this apply to me? This doesn't quite look like what I would use, but here's what my vision is for what I need. This is kind of like it. Would it work for that? Those are all sorts of questions that I'm happy to have you interrupt and ask. I started putting together a PowerPoint and then realized there's not a ton to show on a PowerPoint, but I'll go ahead and do that. And then I'm just going to kind of walk through a couple of tools that I have. A little bit more of an introduction first. I work at Savantis Technologies, and we specialize in a variety of different business technologies, everything from Office 365, which is used for email, and I'm going to show you a couple of different document management platforms, survey forms. It can even do staff scheduling, but a number of other items. We also do a variety of customer relationship management platforms and accounting systems. And one of our newer products is a very robust email marketing and event management system. So today I'm going to focus mostly on the document management and a couple of other collaboration tools. I heard a couple of you when we got on that you've been on Zooms already this morning and you've got a bunch more to go, and it's just more and more of this kind of remote work, and that is sort of what I specialize in, is facilitating remote work. So now I need to remember how to share my screen in Zoom here, so give me just a second. Okay, perfect.
Jenna, I wasn't able to hear the name of your company.
Yeah, no problem. Savantis Technologies. I'll put it in the chat because it's not exactly phonetic, but
yeah, you're going in and out just a little.
Okay. If the audio is bad, I can always switch to a different headset. Just let me know. But yes, we are located. We're located here in Minnesota locally. Our main office is in Baxter, and I work out of Minneapolis. Okay. Everyone see my screen? Mm-hmm. Big old collaboration tools. Okay, perfect. All right, so let me pull this. There we go. All right, so kind of want to focus on what organizations can do to keep digital assets organized. And digital assets is just my really fancy way of saying files. So why would you use a shared filing system? So a lot of people here are familiar with either Dropbox or Box or Google Drive. That is what a lot of organizations use to organize their different files. And so what I'm going to talk about is the difference between, one of those boxes like Dropbox and something like what we use here at Savantis, which is SharePoint, which is actually a shared filing system. And the reason why we generally promote shared filing systems for organizations, probably more than 3 people, anytime you get more than just a handful, we highly recommend moving to a shared file system. And the reason for that is because it cuts down on the amount of time that you spend searching for files. It's a lot easier to train new team members when they come on because everything is, kind of shared and everybody knows where it is. You have a lot of ability to control access to sensitive information that maybe not everybody at an organization should have. And you have an easy way to share news and updates with everyone on your team, or if you have a board of directors, that's where we find there's a lot of return for any organization that has a board of directors that they need to kind of keep up to date or provide information for when they are preparing for meetings or need to share meeting minutes afterwards. So what is a shared filing system versus just sharing files? So a shared file system is, you can kind of think of it as a top-down organization structure. So it's hierarchical. You and your team you kind of sit together in a room and you decide, how are we going to all share our documents? What is the organization that we're going to use? And you say, okay, we're going to have a finance area, we're going to have an HR area, we're going to have a marketing area. all of these different things. We know our organization needs these things. Generally, the reason why people start moving to one of these systems is because they are getting really tired of having to share every single file that they ever create, and then having to remember where all of those different URLs are, pulling up old emails with, I know that Angela shared this with me, but it was like 4 months ago, and I need that file again, and I'm just not sure where it is anymore, because it lives in, let's say, Angela's in Google Drive, and everybody is just kind of getting sick of having to keep track of all of these individual files. That is, when you're sharing from a drive, like I just said, each person determines their own organization structure. So I kind of think of it as each person's brain. We all function completely differently. And the way that I see the world is not going to be the way that everybody here in this meeting sees the world. So if you go into my own drive, well, some people's head would probably just explode because it's just a mess of what my brain does. So I associate this with this, and so I'm going to put this folder here. Whereas, a colleague of mine might go into there and say, "How can you function this way?" And so what happens is when every single person has their own kind of brain chemistry and their own way of organizing files, when you go into somebody else's drive, let's say they shared the whole thing with you, you may not be able to find what you're trying to find. And so what can be really helpful is for the entire team to get together and say, how are we as a group going to think about our documents? How are we going to make sure that everybody always knows where everything is? And then they take a look at that and say, here are the different facets of our organization, and here's what we need to do to organize them. And this is all kind of really theoretical. Like I said, I didn't really put a whole lot of slides together because a lot of it is going to be demonstration. This is my last slide, so we'll just jump right in after this and I'll kind of show you what I mean. As I said, permissions are determined at the top level of a shared filing system, so everybody automatically has access, which is really nice if you have, especially if you have volunteers or temporary people or summer workers or anything along those lines. Every time one of those new staff starts or one of those new volunteers starts working with your organization, you end up having to reshare a bunch of things. You need to send a bunch of links out of your shared drive so that they get access to that information. Whereas if you do it all at the top level, everyone automatically has access to the things that they're supposed to have, and they won't have access to the things that they're not. And then finally, you get a little bit of extra, you can kind of create a little website, which is really useful if everybody is kind of an independent person and they're all working from home or they're all working from different areas, and you want a place where you can share information, updates, news articles, or especially if you're working with a board of directors, you can kind of prepare the information for those board meetings in advance and post it, and there's just a website to go to basically where people can access that information. So I'm gonna stop my little presentation here and switch it over and talk about, or I'm gonna kind of show you what I'm talking about here. So this is my example, my pretend little food co-op. And we actually have one of my colleagues here at Savanta spent a number of years working in the meat and cheese department of one of our local food co-ops here. So he helped me out a little bit with organizing some of this from his experience as a cheesemonger. So as he says. So what I've got here, you can see, so when I talked about having kind of a landing page where everybody can go and see the same information, this is what I'm talking about. This is the homepage of our food co-op SharePoint site. And it's not really complicated. I mean, I set this whole thing up yesterday. So, I talked to my friend Christian, and I said, okay, cheesemonger, what is it that my fake food co-op needs? And he said, well, we've got the purchasing department. That was kind of one of our biggest things, and what I thought could have used a little bit of technological help, because this is what we did here. And he said, we've also, one of the biggest things at our food co-op was making sure everybody was always on top of health and safety protocols, anything new that came out or any updates to our training. We always had paper flyouts for that, which I don't think would work as well during COVID. So I would say put that up there. And he said, marketing is the biggest thing for co-ops, so we would need to have that. And then, of course, management or a board of directors. So in that meeting, we basically set up what his structure would be for his co-op here. And it was pretty basic, pretty simple, but now everything is in one place, and everybody at my little co-op is going to know where they need to go if they've got certain things that they need to do. So on my homepage here, yep, go ahead.
I just want to add a comment here is that I love, thank you for setting this up in such short time frame. That's wonderful. The part I love about a shared platform like a SharePoint versus, and Susie, I love your note that you guys did a great job at setting up a Google Drive. What is beneficial from my perspective around a shared site like this is purchasing could very well be finance as well. And the good thing is that, yes, everyone has access to all of those, what they call sites up there. So purchasing, health and safety, marketing, management, board of directors, those are different sites within your SharePoint world. But the thing I like about this kind of platform is that, for instance, when you're doing audits or you're doing, payables and you need some place to house things that are not and should not be for segregation of duties and for fiduciary responsibility from an audit standpoint, everyone doesn't have access to all of that stuff. HR files that are sensitive that shouldn't be shared, right? So there are ways to segregate these sites so that you can hold all of your information without having to, which Google Drives struggle with, to my understanding, but I haven't used them other than on a couple of projects. And I absolutely, now that I've been with SharePoint, hate Google Drive. So I beg people not to use them. So I just want to point that out because and the thing I love about SharePoint, while it sometimes can be more costly than a Google Drive platform, it's an investment that I felt like was really good because it's something we've used SharePoint for well over a decade. I don't even remember, Jenna, when we started. I know it was when Sephantis literally first started doing SharePoint sites.
It was before I worked here. I think you'd already been on the platform for 4 or so years, and I've been here for 7. So,
so it's been over a decade, and it's just been all the staff that come through. That's another issue with the co-ops. When you're changing over staff, there's not a whole, it's intuitive. It's like using Outlook or other platforms. So it's super easy to train people on. And I'm not trying to sell it. I'm just telling you that I get why organizations start with Google Drives and with those other platforms. They're a lot harder to navigate. You have a lot more features in this that Jenna will show you, but it may not be the best solution for you starting right out the gate, but it certainly is an investment that's worthwhile as you think about the long term of your organization. And by the way, when we started this, I didn't have a pot to piss in, like literally no money at all. So it can be done.
Yeah, and that's exactly kind of how I think of it. Like I said during, at the beginning, a lot of organizations start out with a drive of some kind. So it'll be often Google Drive, or Google Drive, or Dropbox, or Box, or if you're using what came with your new Windows 10 computer, if that's what you got, maybe OneDrive. And OneDrive is related to SharePoint, but it is essentially the equivalent of Google Drive, but Microsoft's version. And so we actually have quite a few clients that will come and they'll just say, when it was 2 or 3 of us, the sharing out of a drive worked for it just fine, because you know your colleagues well enough, exactly, you can to a certain extent guess how their brains work and find their files. But after a little while, especially if you have a lot of turnover or temporary people or anything like that, like Cheryl said, that's when it becomes more of a headache. And so, she kind of jumped in and she talked about finance and human resources, et cetera. And I have an example of that here. Depending on the level of fiduciary responsibility that your organization has, people will have finance be its own section up in SharePoint. So because maybe there's just a ton of information that's involved in finance. If it's not quite as stringent, they might just have what's called a library. And essentially these libraries each of them is like its own drive. So you can think of this as being, if you are a person that has access to the finance directory here, you would be able to go in, upload your documents, create new folders, etc. Audit 2020 would be one that may be in here. And as far as usability goes, it feels exactly the same as if you were using Google Drive. It's just, instead of having folder and folder and folder and folder, and then having specific permissions, or, Jane has the finance folder in her Google Drive and I have the marketing folder in my Google Drive, but Jane needs to get into mine all the time and we're sharing back and forth. When you get into SharePoint, Jane will have access to the finance area and I would not. So I wouldn't even see this as an option to click on most of the time, and Jane would. But we are still working in the same place so that she can go over and get marketing information whenever she wants, but I can't get into finance. And so it makes it so you essentially just have a bunch of drives in one that's got its own navigation, it's easy to get to, and everybody has access to what they need. So I have finance here in my management team, and you'll see that I have my health and safety guidelines, but I also put that on the top navigation because you have a lot of control over exactly how it looks. So in my little food co-op here, the way that I organize the top here is, I thought, who are the different people at my organization? Well, we've got the managers of each department in the co-op, and their primary thing that they're concerned with is purchasing. So I'm going to put that right at the top because any of my managers that come in now can just click on purchasing and work with whatever documents are in purchasing. And depending on how sophisticated I want to get, I might actually have an invoices section in here that allows me to put together an automated approval process for my invoices, depending on how sophisticated I want to get. But the nice thing about SharePoint is you can actually create little workflows so that when somebody, goes in and says, I have these 4 vendor invoices, I'm going to put them here, I need them to get approved, it can actually send an email to whoever the person on the finance team is that needs to approve that invoice. They can click approve or deny, and it will go into approved or declined and send an email back to that person that, that asked for that invoice approval. So you can get pretty sophisticated with the work that's in here, because this is part of Office 365, which has a bunch of extra bells and whistles. So, so my purchasing people or my department managers would most likely almost exclusively work in this purchasing area, but they might have to click every now and then into health and safety, which would be a bunch of my health and safety documents. So if I had to put out a new COVID-19 preparedness plan, or the state law changed and I need to do an update, I'll just update it here, tell everyone that, we've got an update, and they always have access to it, whether they're working from home or they're working at the co-op that day or what have you. Everyone has access automatically to my health and safety area. Each one of these sites here is very customized to the needs of the people that are going to be working in that site. So you can see when I click on marketing, now I've got flyers and brochures, events, logos, and branding. And if I'm a co-op, marketing is one of my most important features, because I need to, now that there's organic food and everything in nearly every grocery store, marketing plays a huge role in whether or not I am going to, keep people coming in and joining the co-op and setting myself apart and being part of a community, kind of showing the importance of community food cooperations and sustainability and everything that co-ops kind of stand for. And so I need to have a pretty robust marketing area where I can keep track of everything that I'm working on right now. And normally a lot of these places have a lot of people that interact with the marketing pieces. So if I'm in flyers and brochures, and let's say I've got I have a document in here. I'm just going to create a little fake one here. Super awesome flyer that is going to get everyone's attention. Okay, I've got my document here now. I'm gonna rename that quick. Now, if I need to, let's say, send it to Cheryl, because she needs to sign off on it. I've done all the work, but I need Cheryl to sign off on it. I'll be able to type her name in here and share it with her. Now, pretend that Cheryl's actually part of my organization. She's not. But if she was, I would be able to just send this over to her. And you will notice that you can, in my little demo environment here, I have it set up so that I can't share these documents outside of my organization. But a lot of organizations choose to allow that. So I have this repository, and let's say that instead of Cheryl's approval on this flyer, maybe I have an outside marketing consultant, or actually maybe I am working with another community food organization and we're collaborating on something together. I can provide them access to the documents that we're working on and get their feedback, and they can actually edit it and return that information to me without having to email this back and forth and back and forth. So we would essentially turn that on, and then we'd be able to collaborate back and forth here. And when I send this, it's just like sending something out of Google Drive. It'll send them a notification that says this has been shared with you. Click the link, etc. I usually put a nice message in there so that they know that I'm not scamming them, that it's not a fake email. So you can see there's a bunch of different items that you can do. And then the last place that I'll show you in our fun little SharePoint directory here is one that tends to be a big thing for especially 501c3s. So, I'm not familiar with the organizations that everyone here belongs to, but are some of you 501c3s or 501c somethings? Okay, so some yes, some no. If you have any kind of need for a board of directors, this is one thing that we find a lot for, whether or not it's a nonprofit. Anyone who has a board of directors uses SharePoint pretty heavily for managing and organizing their board. And especially now that everybody is remote, it can be really nice. You can put your Zoom meeting events on here and everybody can kind of join, sort of the way that you do with Eventbrite. But you can also basically create this one-page area for your board of directors, because not everybody on the board is going to be particularly tech savvy. So you want to design it and make it as easy as possible for them. And they will just click on whichever month it is, and they will have access to all of the minutes or anything that they need to access either before or afterwards. They know that they can always just come here, log in, and most importantly, they won't see anything else up at the top here. They're only going to see board of directors. So you kind of get everything that you need for managing them. So to kind of back up a little bit, I showed a bunch of this. What is the main thing? What is the main reason why this can be really useful for organizations? The main reason is everything is in one place. So, if you are the person that is, responsible for event management, but you're also responsible for making sure that the board of directors is up to date and you're the one taking minutes and you're part of the organization, everything you have to do is right here. And you don't have to go to a bunch of different places to do it. You don't have to send a ton of emails. It cuts down on the number of emails. It cuts down on the amount of admin work, which as you're jumping between different Zoom meetings or you're trying to organize a whole bunch of different community events or what have you, sometimes the balancing of all of the administrative work is one of the harder parts of organizing our days. And this cuts down on quite a bit of it because everything is kind of at your fingertips. So I think that was sort of what Cheryl wanted me to show for at least the SharePoint piece. But I also do have a couple of other quick tools and recommendations that I wanted to show after this. But I wanted to stop and open it up and see if anyone here has some questions about how this is like or different to some of the other technologies that you used, or I'm happy to answer questions about, tips and tricks for the technologies that you already do use and how, those I might be able to solve some issues if you've had certain things with Google Drive, for example. I've used everything. Does anybody have any questions right now?
I have one. So when we take a, say, Excel file and upload it to Google Drive, it goes into whatever Google's form of a spreadsheet software is. Mm-hmm. With SharePoint, does it remain as a like an Excel spreadsheet, or how does that work with SharePoint?
That's exactly what it does. So you can see here, I've got a little documents area here. And just to be clear, I don't actually think I went over this, but the home page here this is the landing kind of page that I was talking about. I have basically just taken this little web part and put it here for easy access. But you can also see that if I go here, it'll be the same place. So I'm going to go to our documents library here, and you have two options. So if you have a desktop version of Excel already installed on your computer, you will basically sign into that and connect it to SharePoint, and you can interact with all of your documents directly from within Excel. You can also create them from here in the library as well. So you'll see that I've got each of these options here, and I've got Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and a special version of Excel. And if you need Visio, you can do that as well. And what I would do then is I would click on Excel Workbook, and you'll see, just like Google Drive, where it creates, it opens in that proprietary Google version of Excel, which I actually don't love that much. I find it kind of difficult to use. I have a couple of people who really like it, but I have never really been a big fan. It's just not great for formatting or formulas in particular. So this is the web version of Excel, which you just get access to if you have SharePoint. If you don't have the desktop version of Excel, you wouldn't need to get it. This works really well. I think it's a lot more responsive than Google, but it doesn't have all of the features. Like if you get into some really heavy data manipulation and really complex formulas, like a lot of VLOOKUPs, you're going to want to use the desktop version. But the nice thing about this is everybody can be in it at one time. You can have multiple authors. You can all be editing simultaneously. And if you want to open this, you just click Open in Desktop App, and it's going to then pop up Excel and be able to work with it there. This is one of the biggest things about SharePoint that people like, is you get the Office applications with it, and it also makes it so that you can collaborate on those without having to email them back and forth. Because whether I'm in the web version or the desktop version, either way, I've got my little name up here, which I haven't changed to my married name, even though I've been married for a while now. But if I had one of my colleagues, what it would do is it would just take their little picture, and each one of them would show up as somebody in here. So like Google, if you've got more than one person on it, it'll kind of highlight where they are in the document, and you'll be able to work together. But you can do it in the actual desktop application. You don't have to be on the web version, which is super nice.
Okay. So then if we had a board member or somebody who does not have, say, Excel or part of the Office suite on their computer, they could still open it.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Okay.
And what's really nice, especially for boards of directors, is if I've got this Excel file here, and let's pretend that's in the board of directors area, and I wanted them to be able to view that Excel file, but I don't want the board members to be able to edit it, which is a pretty common situation with boards of directors in particular. You set up the permissions, because like I said, you have really, really specific permissions. You can get down to permissions on the document level if you wanted to, but you could set it up so that everybody within your organization can edit the Excel file, but board of director members can't. So they would be able to view it, and it would pop up into their second tab, and they can look at it, and they can even add comments if they've got questions. You can set it up so they can put comments on there, but they can't actually directly edit the document, which is really nice, especially for boards of directors. So,
Great. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. That was a great question. Anything else that's kind of got the wheels turning about, like, how would this work for me? Okay. It's pretty straightforward. It's just kind of a different way of looking at it, kind of a different product. So what I'm going to do then, as I know we've got a couple other people who are going to be sharing today, so I don't want to monopolize all the time, obviously. But a couple of other items just I wanted to show, because first of all, I guess I should talk about pricing for SharePoint. It's actually a relatively low cost of ownership. So if you are a nonprofit, it's really, really inexpensive, because Microsoft subsidizes all of their licenses for nonprofits. So you can get it, you can get something like SharePoint for as little as $2 to $4 per person in your organization if you are a nonprofit. and it comes with a bunch of other stuff. You can have an email. Each of these, you know, you don't get SharePoint standalone, frankly. Nobody buys it just by itself. Everybody gets a bundle through Office 365 because if you pay for SharePoint, you can have exchange. So if you're using Google right now, like if you're using free Google accounts, normally what people will do is say, you know, my organization won, or, you know, Jenna Food Co-op at gmail.com or something along those lines. But what you can do with Office 365 is it will actually automatically give you access to Outlook there. And you can, if you've already got a website anyway, you can do jenna.walther@savantis.com, and everybody at your organization who has access to SharePoint can just have one of those email addresses so that you get a little bit more consistency, which can be kind of nice for different organizations to have that email, and it's essentially free with SharePoint. Each person will also get their own OneDrive. So I talked a lot about SharePoint and the benefits of having a top-down structure, but I actually believe pretty heavily in doing both. So OneDrive I use as my personal drive. So anything that I'm working on that either isn't ready to upload to SharePoint for the rest of the organization, or that just doesn't really need to be in SharePoint, will go into my OneDrive. And the reason why I do that is because I don't want to save it on my computer and then, I don't know, I'm pretty clumsy. I've spilled coffee on at least 3 PCs at this point. So if I fry my motherboard, I don't have to go and have an IT person try to recover everything out of it because it's already in that drive. So I use OneDrive pretty extensively for my own documents. I know at Region 5 and in CETA, they don't share, they put everything in SharePoint. But in other organizations, we'll kind of use them in tandem. And you can see I've got all of my different Office applications. So whether or not I have a paid version on my desktop, I can still access it. Microsoft Teams, I'm going to show you in just a moment. This tends to be really nice for organizations that have a number of people who are spread out and don't all work in the same place, especially during a pandemic. It allows for video chat and video calling just like Zoom does. It's actually a very similar interface, but it just comes with SharePoint. And you can also share and do a lot of collaboration there. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. Yammer is kind of silly. It is a personal social media. If you wanted to have a Facebook for your organization, nobody uses it unless they're as big as Microsoft or Best Buy because it's not really necessary.
Jenna,
ones here. Yep.
I just want to share that, I mean, I don't know how Sprout uses their SharePoint, but that was one of the very first things in one of the very first grants we ever wrote collectively, was to fund Sprout to be able to use SharePoint. But the OneDrives at Region 5 and in CETA are pretty much seen as personal sites, is the way you explained it. So staff, and including myself, because mine has got a lot of crap in it, it's where I'll keep things like my resume or my family pictures or recipes or things that I personally want. And I know that might be frowned upon in some organizations, but that's the organizational culture we have, is that that's kind of their individual site, and it's all saved to the cloud. So team members don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to lose, personal information, and it's safe. So that's how we use it, sort of as an employee perk.
Yep.
In some ways.
Yep, and a lot of organizations do that. And different staff members will have varying levels of whether they want to use it for personal items, but a lot of organizations will allow it. And other ones will just use it as like working document sections. So if something is not ready to go into SharePoint, somebody will work on it on their own OneDrive and then add it when it's kind of ready for publish. So and other organizations say no, even if it's a draft, put it in SharePoint, because if you go on a vacation in the mountains of Montana and you don't have any internet access and you left and forgot to upload it to SharePoint and somebody else is supposed to be working on it, not that that's happened to me or anything, then it's always in the same place. Cheryl will talk about that often too, is they at Region 5, they really have a philosophy that everything goes into SharePoint in case something happens, like you get hit by a beer truck. So then everybody has access to everything. So One thing though that I talked about a couple things that come with Office 365. Email, I think, is one of the most valuable. One of the other most valuable items, especially for small organizations, is there is a built-in survey and form tool that you get with it. And this can be sent to anyone. So if I am a co-op, I might be wondering if I'm like evaluating, let's say, the idea of putting a cafe in my co-op. Because I know they're kind of popular, but there's some financial, risk that I have to take on if I'm going to be opening a cafe department. I need more staffing. There's just a big component to how I'm going to do that. Maybe I need to find out whether people actually want a cafe before I go ahead and invest in that. So I might do something like a survey, and I might set it out. This one is a more general one, but maybe I need to do a survey to find out, what is it that people like about the co-op? What is it that they want to improve upon? What can I do to really talk to my members and hear from them about what it is that they want from me? I might find out how often they're shopping for groceries. I might find out what they care about most in a co-op. I might just take random, suggestions, a suggestion box basically, or I might ask for ratings. And you can share this and collect as many responses as you want. And it just, again, comes with Office 365, which is really nice. So if you have something like SurveyMonkey that you're paying for, this is a really nice replacement. And you can send it with Constant Contact or whatever your email marketing is, and it's really nice. You can also post these to Facebook or to other social media areas, and you can see I customized it with some random co-op's produce section here, but you have full control over colors. The interface for editing it and creating it is super easy. If I wanted to add a new one, I'm just going to say, which options do I want? I'm going to say I want to do a liker, which means I can say, how much do you agree with any of these statements, etc. And it saves automatically. Changing the theme is really easy. And you can just kind of share it. So that is one thing that, especially for community organizations, is really, really nice, because community organizations tend to need a lot of community input. So, and then one other thing, since I am a co-op, shift management is something that comes with this, and it is an online shift management. We have clients that use it for their actual employees to manage shifts and to put together shift schedules and to assign those shifts to their staff. And we have other organizations that use it for volunteer management. So if you have volunteers that are take different shifts at your organization, or that you have a specific event that you're putting on and you need to have volunteer shifts, you can create different groups within one of these. This is called Microsoft Shifts. Very easy to remember name, but it just comes right with Office 365 and SharePoint. And so you can split it up. In mine and Christian's co-op here, we've got deli, which is where he would be working as my cheesemonger and fishmonger. He makes sure that I always say both. And then I've got my produce department and my bakery, and I can have completely different shifts. Each of my shift managers each of my department managers can come in here and edit the shifts and add people as necessary. And you can see I have assigned myself these shifts here. I'm working a double on Friday. My total is 40 hours. I, as Jenna, can clock in and out, and this will be on my phone. So when I get to the office, I can clock in, when I get to the co-op, I can clock in on my phone. It knows I'm Jenna, so it'll say, are you ready to start your shift? Yes, I am. When I'm ready to take a break, I can start a break. It says, are you sure you want your break to start now? Yes, I am. And then when I'm done, I can clock out. Are you ready to end your shift? Yes, I am. I'm clocked out. Now I can, as the manager, I can go and look afterwards about, what did everybody work, so that I can do payroll. The other nice thing is you can copy schedules week after week. And you don't have to post this on a board I mean, you can print it, so you can post it on the board if you need to. Maybe somebody doesn't have a phone and you can still work on it that way. The other really nice thing, in my opinion, is each one of, and I have to remember how I do this here. So let's say I've got my shift here and I can no longer make it. I can actually, as the employee, I can put something out that says basically a notification to all of their staff. Can somebody else take this shift for me? And if somebody can, they just click a button that says yes, and it switches that shift from me to that other person, and the manager doesn't have to do all of the coordination on that, which is really nice. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can turn it on or off, but a lot of places like to do it. If you have somebody that keeps giving up a shift every time and they're never working, that might facilitate, that might warrant a conversation, but at least you're covered the whole time regardless. And that's especially important for volunteers because, it's a volunteer area, so you may have a lot more shift exchanges among volunteers than you would with a standard employee. But I can also move it to an open shift, so now it went from 2 in this upper corner here times 2 to times 3, because now that shift is open, or I can assign it to Jenna and it'll show up here. So that's another nice thing that you can get, and that's about all the time I want to take, but I'm happy to answer questions, or Stacy, feel free to tell me what the next step is here, but I'd be happy to answer now or at the end. So, okay. Yeah, I mean, let me know if you have anything.
And I have a question actually. I learned something with that survey piece that I didn't know that we could do, and we do currently use SurveyMonkey, and I'm wondering if some of that question logic works the same. So like if they answer this question yes or no, then it moves to like the next a specific question. Is that consistent in there too?
Absolutely. So we've got this, I have to remember where it is here, add branching. And so it'll say, if I selected daily, I want to skip the next 2 questions, or I want to move on to the next piece. You can also set it up so that there are different sections. So if I wanted it to have 3 questions per page, and they want them to go to the next page, so it's not like this big thing that they're looking at, I can do that. And then I can also choose, do I want, I can shuffle the questions, and I believe, I can't remember where it is, I'd have to look, but I believe that you can provide a progress bar as well. And I think that's awesome. Sections for that. Yeah, it's really nice. I think you have to have different sections in order to have the progress bar. But yeah, you can have a bunch of different sections there. As far as being a replacement for SurveyMonkey, it should do the vast majority of what SurveyMonkey does. This is about a 2-year-old product maybe. So it is it's a newer one for Microsoft, but they're pretty stable with it now. About a year ago, it was still sort of adding some of the things like branching they didn't have a year ago, but now they do, and it works really nice. I use this for almost every single form or survey that we do, and we also use it like internally for info gathering from our employees. So if we have something that we need to ask the employees for, or we use it for our PTO requests. So I've customized it to say, when do I need time off? And somebody can just go in, they'll say, I want the 24th of October off. Here's my reason. I can select bereavement or PTO or military service or whatever it is that I need. And then it will go and look at Office 365 and say, who is this person's manager? And then a workflow will pick it up, send it to the manager approves or declines it, and then the person who requested it gets an email back whether or not it was approved. So there's a lot that you can do, and again, it's all just part of this package. So yeah.
Jenna, you said this is part of Office 365. Is it, because I just peeked out there, was trying to see, I have sort of the standard Office suite, though I have Office 365. I didn't see forms or anything like that.
Yeah, so this is a really nice thing about Microsoft is they make everything a little bit complicated to find. There's about 6 million different packages for Office 365. So they've got home version, they've got small business version, and they've got enterprise versions. So I would have to look at what version you have, and then if you're on a free version, it probably wouldn't come with forms. But if you are a nonprofit or something, you would upgrade to the next version up, and it would, and then you would get any of these extra features.
Okay, because that's I know it's not a free version, but it's probably my version. I'd have to step up to get it. Okay,
and I'm
thank
happy to have you email me. You can even email me the version or a screenshot, and I can tell you exactly what it is and what the price would be if you were going to get this for your organization. Pretty easy to do for me, so I can do that anytime.
Perfect. Thank you, Jenna.
Any other questions? I figured that the forms would be kind of fun for everyone because it's a big thing.
This is a kind of a what's next question. We're really interested in looking into CRMs. Is that going to be part of this?
Yes. Yep. And again, I don't want to monopolize all the time, but yes, there is a CRM system here, and it's called Dynamics 365. What were you planning to use it for? Are you looking at contact management? Is that kind of what you're looking for? Or?
Yeah, contact management, emails, capital campaign work. We just want to not duplicate and take the chance of typing something in an error with different systems. We'd like to save some time with all of that type of thing.
Perfect. Yep. So this is Dynamics 365. You have a ton of customizability with it. You can see that we've got some customized. What's that?
What did you say it's called?
Dynamics 365. Like I said, Microsoft likes to name everything almost the same thing. Yeah. And actually, I would probably switch to a different environment here. So I'm a administrator, so I have a ton of different things I could show you here. I'm going to show you sales. What we do here is each one of these apps can be customized, and most places just have one because you want everyone using the same thing. But you can have basically, you've got your accounts and your contacts. So if you work with businesses, you would use accounts. If you just work with people, you'd probably just use contacts. We've got organizations that work with schools, so each of the schools is an account, and on each of the teachers a contact. We have organizations that work with just people, so everyone is contact. But you can kind of go through, and I'm sorry, I gotta switch over to, this doesn't have the right info in it. But it doesn't come with Office 365. It is a separate license, so that I should just say that. Let me find us a sandbox environment. How about that? I might not have one available just to show offhand here though. Yeah, I don't. But basically, let me kind of go back a little bit. Basically what you can do with it, especially if you're tracking campaigns, are you tracking marketing campaigns, or what type of campaign are you looking at?
Well, honestly, we don't know about the capability of it for marketing campaigns, but to begin with, we have our ownership lists and records on a spreadsheet. And then we have a separate email list through Constant Contact. And we've just done a series of calls to all of our owners, or as many as we could reach, to verify data and check and see how they're doing, and a variety of things like that. So now we have somebody who is having to make corrections in 2 places.
Yes.
And so we are not an open co-op yet.
Okay.
We're working towards that as fast as we can. And we'd like to, before we get too much farther along, we have 458 owners now. We just think it's probably well past time to move to something that is more streamlined and more effective for us.
So what I would probably do is I'm going to put my email in the chat here when we're done, and you are all welcome to reach out to me directly. What I would probably do is set up another call with you, and I'll actually have a demo environment that I can show you. But the nice thing about Dynamics is it is fully customizable. So basically, what we do for you in particular, what we would do is we would probably start with those accounts and contacts and make sure that we get them customized to have all of the information that is important for the co-op. So if you've got owner members, you have, depending on whether you have levels of ownership, you need to be able to track that. If you have, if you are a co-op that does, that requires a certain amount of service, then you can track all of that on the contact. Anything that is, unique to your co-op and unique to those owner members, you can kind of basically customize what is on their page so that you know exactly who the different, who your different members are. And the nice thing is then you can, on the other side of that, when you need to send, a specific type of email, for example, to just these members that live, maybe they live here or they might be available for an event or what have you, you can basically filter it to show you just the members that fulfill those demographics that you are looking at, and then send them emails or keep them up to date. And there is no dual entry. Everybody has access to the same thing. And if you do have, on the other side of it, if you do have a board of directors and there's certain types of information you need to provide, like how many new members do we have, or what is, what have you, you can create like a little dashboard or report from it that you can just pop up at a board of directors meeting to show them that information. It's a really nice tool. We use it for everything here. And it's customized for each different organization. And then if you get to the point where you wanted to actually send emails out of the CRM system and not use Constant Contact, there is a full email marketing platform as well. It's a big one. So like it's a really, really robust one. So you want to make sure that you get it once your marketing efforts are, you have somebody that can kind of do marketing all the time, because it's a little bit more expensive than some other ones. It's really a good price for nonprofits. But it is in the enterprise space, I would say. So basically you can either integrate CRM to Constant Contact. There are some integration options so that you don't have to like keep exporting and importing your contacts. Or you can you can do some direct email out of CRM depending on the level of sophistication you're looking for. The marketing platform is really nice. I use it because I'm a marketing person here. So yeah. But yeah, I'll put my email in there so you can kind of contact me, and we can find out whether it's the right time now or if it's something that you're going to be putting, you need to know about. So when you're a little closer to opening, you can start planning for it, and we can kind of talk through that. Any other questions? If any of you have been thinking kind of during this, well, we didn't explicitly address something that I have a technology need for, but I'm wondering if maybe Office 365 or Dynamics 365 could do X. Just send me an email. The worst thing I say is no. But I also am just kind of immersed every day in various technologies. So even if it's not something that Savantis does, I can usually point you in the direction of somebody who does it and get you a resource that's nice for whatever it is that you need. Because we also want to be beneficial to the local foods movement. So yeah. Okay, should I stop presenting now?
That was awesome. Yeah, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Super helpful. I think we will be using some of the information that you shared actually. So.
Good. Yeah, just feel free to reach out to me. I'll help you out.
All right.
Now in the chat for anybody who needs it.
Angela, are you ready?
I think so.
Okay, I will.
Let me.
Yes.
It wouldn't be a presentation without a slideshow, right? Okay, can you see a Region 5 Development Commission logo with some pretty lakes in the background?
Yes.
Okay. So Ed, I had done the presentation originally as if there's people who don't know what Region 5 is. So everyone on the call does know who we are, correct? I think. So I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. And my name is Angela Anderson, as you know, and I do the marketing and communications at Region 5 Development Commission and also at North Central Economic Development Association. So today I just want to talk more specifically about social media. And I'm going to, well, that should have been up during my intro, so I already screwed up, you guys. But all of you probably know we cover those counties of Crow Wing, Cass, Morrison, Todd, and Wadena. And what is going on here? This is not what was supposed to happen. Hang on. It skipped all the things. Oh my gosh, you guys, hang on, sorry. I don't even know. I'm gonna stop for a second because that is not what was supposed to happen and nothing's hidden, so that's weird. Okay. Good thing I'm not giving a presentation on how to use PowerPoint. Okay. This is just not working. Why? Why is it not working? Okay. Well, the slide is supposed to be a guy, and it says technology is the campfire around which we tell our stories. And he's got a little stick with marshmallows that he's toasting. But what I wanted to just share is that technology has given us all the tools that we need to share our story and to reach audiences that we would not normally be able to reach. So obviously, we all know with the internet, things have just exploded. There's tons of different things we can find and look for. And so it's a really great tool to use to share things about yourself and your organization. It also can be very hard to navigate. And so was just wanting to share a few things today about what we do at Region 5, and then also an online digital marketing tool that I use that I would highly recommend that you all check out. So the first thing is this brand identity. And so you really want to make sure that you have developed your brand and that you're consistent in what you're sharing. And that can be a little tricky. Sometimes my style might be different than Stacy's, and so we have to kind of set these parameters of these are the colors that we use, these are the fonts that we're using, this is our logo, and this is how we use the logo. And so setting those kind of parameters up ahead of time helps everybody understand what they should be using, when they should be using it. So that's kind of the first thing I would do before you even start doing things. And obviously we've all probably already been posting to social media. We might have our logo done and we already know this stuff, but if you don't, I would just highly recommend taking that time to kind of outline what you want to have for your consistent guidelines that you're sharing. And also to just find your focus and be active. So I think the hardest part is that there are so many tools out there that you might not know which one you should use. And sometimes it's a comfort level. Maybe you know Facebook really well and that's what you use, and that's fantastic. Sometimes, depending on what you're trying to do, you may need to adjust how you're sharing that information. So it depends a little bit on a couple of different factors. And so I would just highly recommend kind of figuring out what you want to focus on, because we can't all do everything. We can't be good at everything. And so if I decide I'm going to try to go on these 50 platforms and use those, it's not going to be a good thing. So really, we just kind of, we focus on a few different ones, and that's what works for us. I would also recommend kind of just doing different things like creating a mood board, and you can use that to kind of set a tone. And some of these things you can just search to and find and get ideas, but a mood board maybe for us in this region, I mean, water comes to mind, or the local foods come to mind, or different things that you maybe want to kind of capitalize on. And it does depend on your organization. For us, it's easy because we have so many things that we do that it's easier to do a big mood board, but I think you can still do it for your local foods specifically. So that would be one thing that I would recommend. And also just creating different templates and kind of having some consistency. So maybe every time I post a video, I use the same graphic, but I change the text so that it matches that video. And I think that really helps people recognize you and your organization and know that that's coming from you, and just kind of developing that brand recognition. So that is what I would say first to do and focus on, is the brand identity. And then next, I just wanted to define social media specifically. And I am a visual person. I love graphics and different things that are really pleasing to the eye. But I also feel like words are a big, big thing. And so I just wanted to take a minute and define that definition of social media. And I know you all can read, but I just want to say, to share that aloud. So social media are interactive computer-mediated technologies that facilitate the creation or sharing of information, ideas, career interests, and other forms of expression via virtual communities and networks. So as we talk a little bit more about this, my slides are all on now. There's so many tools that you can use to share your story. And there's the most popular one is Facebook. Also, Twitter and Instagram are very popular. Pinterest, LinkedIn. There's YouTube and there's Spotify, and different ways you can listen to podcasts. There's so many, and I didn't grab all of them, obviously, but I wanted to share kind of the top ones with you on this slide. And in addition to taking that time to focus and figure out what you want your organization to focus on, I would also say to use what you're comfortable with. So for us, well, let me step back. So I would say use what you're comfortable with, but also sometimes it's okay to be uncomfortable and learn something new. So I would also say that you should capitalize on your strengths. So maybe you have a millennial who works at your food co-op who's super active on Twitter, and maybe you are not. It's okay to have other people kind of help and tell your story, so that you are reaching those other platforms and those other people that maybe you personally wouldn't reach. So I would recommend kind of figuring those things out. And you know, you don't have to be on Twitter, you don't have to be on LinkedIn, you can choose what those things are that are going to work for you. But I would also recommend to recycle your content and kind of share across a couple different platforms that you have decided to use. And that will just kind of help continue to build that community. Another thing to do as you're doing an event, let's say you're out and you have your smartphone. We all have these smartphones everywhere we go. Pull that out and take a photo, a close-up, a bigger shot, maybe a little video clip. And that way you're having these 3 different things that you have in your bucket to use to share. So maybe on Instagram, you share that close-up picture that you took of all the produce. Maybe on Facebook, you share the bigger picture with the people who are shopping at your event. And then the short video clip you can put on YouTube, and then you can still kind of share those all across other things too. So you could put the video on YouTube, but you could also share that link on Facebook and Twitter. So kind of identify your top social media tools and then work from there. Any questions so far?
I do have one. You didn't mention a website as a social media tool. How does that interface?
That is a very good question. And as the person who does the websites for our organization, I should have probably added that. For me, I use the website obviously as our place where people land to find information about us. But I also use the blog on there as like a news feature. So if I have a press release that I've shared with media publications, I will take that link or take that content and create a blog post on our website that gives me a link, a hyperlink to use out on social media. So it definitely plays a part. And that's the first thing you really want. You want to drive traffic to your website, especially if you have things to buy there or just information that you want to share. So thank you very much for bringing that up. That's a great point. And it's probably the basis for all of this stuff, because like I said, that's where you want to drive people back to, and that's where your kind of organization lives. So that is important for sure. The next thing, did that answer your question? Okay, thank you. Now on this slide, I just kind of have this find your focus. So this is what we do at Region 5. It doesn't mean that this is the answer for you, but our primary social media tool that we use is Facebook. And then usually I will just cross post on Twitter and LinkedIn. And I try to change it up a little bit so it's not exactly the same. I use more hashtags on Twitter than I would sometimes maybe on Facebook, or LinkedIn will also pop up with some different hashtags that I'll use. So I try to make it a little bit different as far as the content and what I say, but the gist of it is the same. So that kind of gives us that cross-platform posting ability. And then I also use Constant Contact when I'm sending out emails to all of our subscribers. So we have a monthly newsletter that we do for NCEDA, and we have a quarterly newsletter that we do for Region 5. But sometimes it's just an announcement of some sort or something that is really important that we want to share. So we'll use that Constant Contact tool to share specifically with our subscribers. And then sometimes it also is important just to share that across back over to Facebook and LinkedIn. So I'll share the newsletter link on Facebook, and it's just basically kind of, they're all kind of working together to keep sharing our story. Maybe someone is on our Constant Contact list, but they're not following us on Facebook or whatever. So it's just kind of giving you this broader reach. And then YouTube, we do videos. We don't do a ton of them, but we've had help in just kind of explaining our different things that we do. So a community development video we recently did, or for regional transportation coordinating councils, there's different components to that. So like a volunteer driver video was helping to explain what that means. A video is a great tool, but I also want to make sure that you know it doesn't have to be a professional paid videographer that comes and does video for you. Most of us, we don't have a ton of money to share, just to spend on those types of things. So you can take, again, your smartphone. I'll talk about this a few times. You can take video with your smartphone. You could do a live quick thing and say, hey, we're here, we're downtown today, we're doing this. That just generating a buzz for your organization, and you can share that, like I said, on YouTube, or do a Facebook Live, or however you want to do it. But video is important, but it doesn't have to be professional. It doesn't have to be paid for. So it's kind of scary. Obviously, we don't all love being on video, or we don't love posting ourselves talking, but I think it generates more interest. Obviously, when people see a video pop up, they're going to be more likely to click on that than if there was just no visual at all. I know I went to an event for a tourism conference, and one of the people that was talking said every Friday, this woman would just go to a different spot in the region. She would pop up and be like, here's where I am today. And every Friday it was different. And so just kind of some of those cool little fun things you can do to build interest. Video is a great way to do that. Let's see, I think I got everything covered. I would just be aware, if you are using Twitter, that you have a character limit, so you can't just post a ton of stuff. I also do like to try to keep things really more short and sweet and not too long. On the post, keep that shorter, and then have like more of the information on the link, like the website page or whatever you're linking to. So you want to just generate interest, but then also maybe have them click to some other spot where you have the meat and potatoes and kind of the whole deal. And just whatever you use, whatever you decide to use, always remember that it is an extension of your brand. I kind of wanted to ask this, and I didn't ask Stacy to set up a poll, or we didn't do a poll ahead of time, but can you maybe in the chat just share what you're using now for your organization as far as a Facebook or a social media tool? And maybe because, how can I see this, you guys? Are
you able to see it?
I'm not able to see it. I don't know if it's because I'm just sharing on the screen. And we do a commission meeting every month, and I'm the presenter, and I have my 2 monitors, but today I just have my laptop, and I think I'm failing on how to navigate.
So Facebook and website have been the 2 mentioned so far.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I will just say, we had a team, like a staff day. We weren't on Twitter, or most of us weren't. We all did a login, we all did it. We use it as an organization, but personally, most of us aren't using it. So it doesn't help us get as much traction as we would like. But like I said, I want people to use what they're comfortable with. So forcing people to go on Twitter is not what we're gonna do. But it doesn't mean I don't keep posting there, and we still keep building some followers. I know on LinkedIn when I started, there was only about 8 people following us, and now we're up to like 54 or something. So just by posting, you'll gain interest and you'll gain followers. So, but like I said, do not go on everything just because you think you need to be on something. If you don't know that people are there, don't do that.
So Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn or others have been mentioned.
Awesome. So, and I think for us, I love Instagram personally. I love it, but we don't take enough photos, even though we should be taking more photos. We don't, to me, that's very photo oriented. And so, it's good. I think it should be something that you use if you feel that, you're using it personally and that you're going to get some people who are going to follow you on there. And sometimes it's trial and error. Maybe you do start an Instagram account and you try it for 6 months and it doesn't really get much traction. Then maybe that's not the route you should take. So there's no perfect answer, but I would just say to find your focus, not try to do everything and focus on a few. And then again, just cross-platform posting so that you're getting more traction out of what you're sharing.
We don't use Instagram a ton at Savantis because nobody wants to see screenshots of like tech stuff. So we don't use it a ton because we don't have a real need for it. We sometimes put our company events on it as more of a recruitment tool because we're super fun. But I could see Instagram being a really huge asset for some of the people in this meeting, just because you have actual visual storytelling, and that Instagram is such a good platform for visual storytelling. You can kind of learn a little bit about lighting and color. I noticed, Angela, you had a slide somewhere in there about Canva. But Canva is a really good tool for, and it's CANVA. It's a really good tool for easily editing photos and creating really cute posts for things like Facebook and Instagram. And I would.
So Jenna, my main big aha thing I wanted to share is actually I have Canva and I want to give them a demo of that because I feel like it's so easy to use. And you don't have to have a degree in design to use it. So it's very, very wonderful. And I will share more about that for sure. So thank you for that. And I do agree with you. I think all of Purple Carrot marketing, you can take pictures and Instagram, all of those. So we've thought about it. We haven't done anything yet, but we might. So I just wanted to make a comment too, that the best posts either inspire, educate, or entertain. So if you keep that in mind, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. But your internet connection is unstable popped up, and so I was wondering if I was still okay. Okay, so let's move on. Any questions from this piece? Okay. Okay, so a goal without a plan is just a wish. And so really planning is super important. You want to kind of figure out what you're going to say when you want to say it. You don't have to plan out this whole big thing if you don't want to, but just taking some time to plan some posts or maybe what you're going to focus on for content for that month is super helpful. And I think I stapled my pages in the wrong order, guys. Okay, let's see. Just wanted to make sure. Here we go. Okay, so I would just ask yourself that question. What is your goal? And make the plans to achieve that goal. Is it to get to 500 likes on Facebook? Is it to increase your website traffic? And just make sure that goal is something that you can measure. And then I would develop a schedule for content. And it could be, very well planned out, or it could be focused on kind of holidays and events that are happening. In November, I like to post about our military connections stuff because I know that's Veterans Day falls in November. And so kind of just depending on what you have going on and what makes sense for you, you can kind of map out months and then kind of drill down into weeks and days. And you don't have to post every day, but the more you post, the more your reach will spread. So I would suggest kind of developing some kind of a schedule for content, and then also scheduling posts to save time. And we recently had an example where the Department of Employment and Economic Development messaged us, and they had like 6 different things that they wanted us to share. So I just took the time to go into the publishing tools in Facebook and copy and paste what they wanted. They had like the text they wanted us to use to share the message, and then a photo on one, a video link on one, whatever it was. I just took maybe 10 minutes to go in and put all those in and scheduled them to go every like 2 days or whatever, those 6 posts at a certain time, and then it was done. Obviously, we're all busy and we don't have time to be like, oh, I'm supposed to go post that deed thing today. So knowing that scheduling the posts is out there as a thing is huge, and it really helps be a more effective use of your time. So I would highly recommend scheduling posts whenever you can. You can kind of set that whole month out. Maybe every Friday, you know, you're going to post a funny quote or whatever. So you can just put those out there and they're done and you're done with it. At the same time, I would also recommend, well, I think that's coming up in the next slide, but talking about taking time to be active too is a really important thing. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. And so engagement, I think that is the next big piece. You could post and post all day long, but if you don't interact with your followers and you don't interact with the comments, then it's not really building your community. So I would highly recommend maybe even taking like 15 minutes every morning or 15 minutes at lunchtime and just kind of getting in the habit of going out and being active on your page and responding, and also responding to other people's posts, following organizations that are like you, or that you admire, or whatever you want to do so that you're kind of interacting with your own community is really important too. And all the things you're doing is just kind of helping to get your organization out there. And a lot of times what we do too is if someone has liked or anything with our page, but they liked the post, but they haven't liked our page yet, we always go in and on those and invite the people to our page to like our page so we can keep building that base for our sharing. I know another really big thing is to tag people in photos. Like the more that you can expand the reach is very helpful. So I know that if I post a picture of Stacy, if I don't tag her, then it's just the Region 5 people that are going to see it. But if I tag Stacy, then all of her friends and family and people that are following her will see it. And some of that depends on the person's settings that they have on their account. But I always know that I'm going to get a greater reach and a greater following if we do that. So I would just try to remember to tag people or tag the place that you're at or whatever you can do to kind of build the reach.
Angela?
Yeah.
A question. When you tag them, is that like doing the @Stacy Headley? Does that, somebody once said that invites them to their personal, sort of the broader community, to their personal page, and that they had a problem with it because they didn't want random folks necessarily invited to Stacy's personal page. How does that work? I mean, is that
Jenna or someone else, if you know this exact answer, you can chime in and help me, but I think it depends on the person's settings. So right now I know I have mine set up that I have to approve a post that I'm tagged in. So, but if I don't have that set up, then it is just going to go out and everyone will be able to see it. So it kind of depends on the parameters that the individual person has set up. Otherwise, and yeah, I mean, if they don't have it set up correctly and they don't want it shared, then it would get out to anyone who follows your page. They would be able to see that. So Jenna, would you say anything differently about that? I don't know.
No, I think you're right. Facebook allows a lot of granularity on its security measures. I don't know what the default is these days, because it used to be the default was if you were tagged, anybody can see it. I do think you're right that that each user can set up the ability to say I need to approve the tagged post. I personally have that on mine. And if they have that set up, most likely if they were at one of your events, they probably don't have a problem with accepting that tag, is my guess. Most people just, if they do have that on, they do it because they don't want to be tagged at a party or something. So but as long as they approve the tag, it'll show up for all of their people it'll show up on the timelines of their friends and that are on Facebook. And if they decline it, it'll still show up on your page and your followers will still be able to see it. It just won't get shared to everybody else's. So they can't decline what you have on your page. If they felt that the picture of them was like somehow a violation of terms, they could, ask for it to be taken down. But most of the time they're just going to decline the tag and you'll still have it on your page.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so we were talking about engagement. I think it's super important just to kind of interact and do that, because otherwise you're not building your community. And you want to grow your community. That's what we were originally looking for at social media when we looked at the definition. So I think that's super helpful. The other thing I wanted to talk about is accessibility. So the internet is huge and vast, and you want people to be able to find you. So be easy to find. I know we had mentioned the website is important. So when people are searching for you and Googling your name, you want to make sure that your website is the first thing that comes up. So check on that for your own self. I mean, type in your organization and Google and see what comes up, and kind of make sure that those are happening. And that's a whole nother talk about SEO, which is the, oh my gosh, totally drawing a blank on the acronym. Jenna,
Search engine optimization.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so obviously that's like a whole nother ball game, and we won't dive into all of that, but kind of check on your stuff and see what's going on, and then you can have help with that to get the SEO to come to the top and make sure that your page is where it's needing to be seen. And then get recommendations. Anytime you're getting some positive feedback, you can share that. You can share it as a post, make a cute graphic. You can have those kind of testimonials on your website. Those things are really important to kind of help share the story of your organization and highlight that positive feedback and the experiences that people have with you. I also wanted to mention that you should be ADA compliant. So that is also a whole nother ball of wax and probably a whole nother just separate one-day seminar. But you want to make sure that people have access to your content, and you want to be able to be sensitive to people who are hearing impaired or vision impaired or language impaired. So that is one thing that we're working on to do an accessibility statement. We have a vendor that we're also working with to help us make sure our whole website is ADA compliant. And so that's just something to think about and try to do what you can there. It's not just a quick snap your fingers and it's fixed or figured out, but just kind of have that in the back of your mind as you're doing stuff. I know for me, when I'm doing our marketing, we know that we have a Latino population in Long Prairie that we want to make sure they know about the things that we're doing. So we always do like a translation of a document and share it that way so that we can be inclusive. So just something to kind of have in the back of your mind and also to strive to achieve. Oops. And the next thing is just to be user. We're obviously all looking for ways to improve the quality of life in some aspect or another. We are, trying to improve, that's part of our mission statement. Food co-ops are providing local foods and supporting local growers. So you're impacting the quality of life in our region. Cervantes is helping their clients streamline their business processes to create efficiencies. So we're all trying to be better and be user-friendly and help people along the way. So my biggest suggestion here is to just be sure that you're looking at things from that outsider perspective. And that falls a little bit into that category of maybe creating a translated document, but also I'm constantly asking my husband, even though he gets annoyed with me, to look at something and make sure that it makes sense to him, because he doesn't do what we do. And if he doesn't understand what's happening with that message that I'm trying to create on that flyer or that post, then other people probably won't either. So I'm always looking for feedback from someone outside, or also just kind of checking in with our team to have them look at it just for a second set of eyes. And just kind of being aware of that is very helpful, I think. And asking yourself those questions before you post or share something. So does your post make sense? Are you using acronyms? Just because we know what MATO means doesn't mean that you all know what that is. So make sure that you're spelling things out when you need to so that it's understandable for everyone. And also, sometimes I just think things can get a little ugly. Sometimes it's a really long link that you want to share. I mean, lines and lines of a link, that it's not very pretty. And so I would recommend going out to a site like Bitly or tinyurl and getting a shortened link so you can share that when you're posting. All the time, you just want it to be visually concise and easy to read and easy to understand. So be always kind of thinking of that as you're doing your social media posts. And you can ask yourself that question too, does it inspire or educate or entertain? And some of it's just sharing information, some of it's sharing an event or whatever. So it may not always fall into those categories, but you're sharing something that is important, that is helpful to people. And so that's one thing you want to ask yourself as you're posting. Any questions so far? Okay, so now we get to get into the fun stuff. I want to just share a couple tools for success, and then I'm going to give you a little demonstration of Canva. Can you raise your hand if you know what Canva is? Okay, and are you using it? Okay, awesome. Okay, so we'll dive in a little bit and just show you some of that in a second. I mentioned the smartphone already, and it's just a huge tool. Obviously, we can take great pictures, we can take video. Canva as an app is an app on your phone, so you can actually do something there if you are out and about and you don't have your computer. Obviously, we can have Facebook as an app or Twitter as an app. The list is endless as far as what you can do just on here. So I would highly recommend using that. And I think we all know that we kind of can't go anywhere without it. But sometimes it is nice to be away from it for a little bit too. So I would also suggest using your network. For us at Region 5, there's so much that we do want to share or things that we're seeing that I can't do everything by myself. So we have like 4 of us, I think, that are admins on our Facebook account. And that way, Stacy sees something about a military thing that I didn't catch that we want to share. Or Don sees something about an artist thing that's happening in Bertha or whatever it is that she follows. We're going to get more of a, we're going to be able to share more because we're all kind of helping. So it can get a little tricky, but I would highly recommend doing that too, just to help you have more people sharing. Otherwise, it's just too much on one person. And then there's also a lot of free training online. I have a resource document that Stacy will send out when we're done here, and it just kind of has a couple different sites that I've used, or you can search. There's HubSpot, which is a great site. Lynda.com, I have paid for in the past and used that a little bit too, just to try to help train myself on something that I want to know more about. So I would advocate to use the online training that you can find that's free to help you with a specific thing. If you're looking to be better at Twitter, you can watch a video, you can find things out online to kind of help you learn that process. So I would just recommend that as well. And then I want to get into this demonstration of Canva. And I'm going to stop sharing for just a second. Okay. Oops.
While she's doing that, I just want to remind you guys, I will be sending those evaluations again. So to evaluate this workshop. And then at the end, don't let me forget, we need to, we got an email from Swan about the follow-up from the peer-to-peer audit thing. So we'll talk about that at the very end as well. Don't let me forget.
Okay, so you can see this, it says design anything. Good, okay. So in here, there's a ton of things, but it's super easy to use. It's very user-friendly. They have videos for training and learning right up here. You can learn how to do different things getting started. They're just really short, quick tutorials to help you. I am going to, there's some designs I'm going to show you. And so one example, I'll pull this up, is all the flyers for the Good Food Access seminars. I just created them in Canva. So it's taking a minute to pop up here, but it gave me a way to have a template quickly that we could just go in then and change according to who was presenting, what the topic was, adding their bio. But then it looked the same on every single flyer. I didn't do a different flyer for each one. It really made it easy for me to do those and get them done. I'm going to, let's see. Okay. So here, there's a little arrow that goes down, and you can do tons of things in here. So let's just say this is one of our colors that we use, but let's just say I want to make it orange. You just go in and highlight that element, and you click a different color over here. This is set up, we actually do the professional version, and I will show you the pricing towards the end here. There's a free version, so you can totally use it for free, and it's not a big deal. There's a little bit of restrictions as far as what you can do. So with the professional version, I have, you can have logos saved in there and like the branding colors and the font. At first I started with the free version, and I just found that there was things that I was wanting to use that weren't accessible. It doesn't mean that you can't get by with the free version for however long you want to, but there were different photos or elements that then you had to pay for separately, and so it wasn't making sense for us. And I think it's like $9 a month or $9.95 a month. So the fee is very reasonable, and the capabilities that it gives you are amazing. So this, let's just say I screwed up, I don't want orange, I can hit the back arrow and it undoes, is that a word? Undo is what I did. And then let's say that I'm ready, this is awesome, I'm good to go. I'm gonna hit this little arrow, and there's choices of the file type. So you can choose a PNG, high quality image, you can do a JPEG, you can do a PDF. They're suggesting on this one a PDF print. That is what I would have done. If I was sending this to the printer to be professionally printed, I could click this crop marks and bleed, and it would, when I click download, it would have the marks on it that the printer would need to print it. So it's very amazing. Like I use Adobe InDesign, I use other Adobe products when I'm designing stuff and doing things, but if I need something quick, or even if I don't, I mean, even if I just know it's pretty simple and I don't need a ton of, I don't need to use Adobe, then I won't. And so I've used this even for an ad in the IQ magazine or whatever. You can resize in the professional version, so you can make it smaller or bigger. You can do a custom size. You can change it to be a Twitter post size or any of these options. There's tons. So the capabilities are amazing, I think. And then let me go back. So if I was just starting out today and I'm blank space, I have a project that I want to do a post for autumn, for November, let's say. And it's a Facebook post. So I'm just gonna click on the Facebook post button. And this is just bringing up a blank Facebook post. But on the side, you'll notice there's templates, and they're already designed. So people who are designers who know all about you know, contrast and colors and all of the things that make things look pretty have done these pre-set designs for you to use. So let's just say this came up because I was testing, but I was searching for autumn. I wanted something to do fall. Then it brings up a bunch of different things that I can choose from. So maybe like I want to do a Thanksgiving post and I want to get that ready and get it published. So I would click on this one, and it just populates the space. And from your best pal, obviously that's not what we're going to probably say on our Facebook post for Region 5. So I would just maybe say, from all of us at R5DC, let's say. Oops. And we can change this bottom thing too if we want. You could make it bigger. You can change the font. This is another piece where it comes in for the professional version. So you can set a specific font. Let's say Region 5 always uses Montserrat. That's our font. Then we can just have that in the elements and it would come up too. Or we can change it here now. And you can also change the color of the font. So maybe I didn't want to keep that brown color. I wanted to do it in white, let's say. So it really, obviously they, following the design is a good idea because they know what they're doing. And this probably white with the yellow is not a good choice for the contrast, but you can see that it's very versatile. It's very interchangeable. Maybe I just don't even want that on there at all. Whoops. You can just delete that element by right-clicking it, or there's a little button up here. But let's just say now we're ready, like this is done and we're good to go. You can actually have this interface right with your Facebook page, and I could publish it to Facebook right now if I wanted to, or I could schedule it. So the thing that comes up, oh, it's not working for me at the moment, but there. You can write the post here, so it's ready to do it. Let's just say I wanted to say something specific. We wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving. And then I can hit publish now and it will go out to our Facebook page, or I can click the calendar and I can say, I don't want this to go now, obviously. I want it to go closer to Thanksgiving. So I'm going to have it post on, the 26th, let's say. And then you can schedule the time and then you're done. You don't have to have it linked to your Facebook page though either. You can just hit this little arrow to download, and then you can download it to your computer and you can post it that way. Maybe I wanted a graphic that I want to use in Constant Contact, or maybe I want to, there it is. Okay, so that's what it did, and I can save that image and I can use it in whatever I want to. So a lot of times for us, we have different programs that we do. Let's say the Vet CSA that Stacy had going with the food shares for the vets. I designed something specific for that, and then you can do more than one thing. So let's say I have this Facebook version, but I also wanted to resize it and have a Twitter version. You can do that and just switch it out here and then hit copy and resize. And you have to finagle stuff around a little bit because it just used what you had. And so maybe now this is too close, right? I want to move this over a little bit. I want to move this over. I want to make this bigger. You can change the font size there so it goes to 18, let's say. It's just super user-friendly and easy, I think. And so I would highly recommend checking it out and using it. I was going to show you a couple different things in here, some examples in my own designs. This was our graphic that we had created for our Take 5 newsletter. We do a similar thing with our deep dive podcast. And so everything's kind of, you can see that it's consistent with the colors and the same things that we're using throughout our organization. Sometimes then I changed, I had a specific size in Constant Contact that I knew that I wanted this to be for the header. So I just did a copy and resize and readjusted it. So it's super easy to use, and it's easy to change things and kind of make sure that you're doing that. And I didn't mention that, but make sure that you are adjusting things to size. So one thing that caught my eye this morning was actually this post from Nisswa's Farmers Market. I could tell right away that it was probably designed in Canva, but it's pretty, it's eye-catching, it's easy to see. But when I went to their Facebook page, this image is cut off here. So when you click on it, you can see the whole thing. But if I were doing this, I would want to make sure that I knew what the size was, Facebook cover post, and I would be making sure that I would use that size in Canva to design and upload it there. So just kind of being aware of those sizes is important. Twitter is different than Facebook, and so just even obviously Canva knows the sizes and can help you, but if you have something specific where it's not a choice in Canva, you can find out the dimensions and then you can do the custom dimensions. I think that's sort of everything. There's probably a lot more to show you that I'm not showing you. There's a content planner in here that is fairly new that I haven't been using yet, but I think I'm going to because it's very easy. But that's that kind of calendar connection you saw. And so you could schedule something, let's say, just right from here you saw that I could go and find the design and create that, or choose one. Let's say I knew that I wanted to share this flyer yesterday or today or whatever. I could go in and schedule that here. So I love it. I've recommended it to other people. My brother is also in a public relations, like marketing position, and he uses it all the time. My sister uses it, and she's in Sauk Rapids and works at a community ed office. They use it all the time. So I think that it's just an amazing tool. It's not very expensive, and it really helps make you look good without having to pay someone to do that graphic design work. So I don't get paid by Canva. It's not a paid advertisement or anything, but I just think that it's a really cool tool, and I know that it's helped me a ton. So I wanted to share that with you. And that's really all I had. I have nothing else. So if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. I don't know everything about social marketing or media stuff, but I'm happy to help you figure stuff out and help find the answer if I don't know what it is. So thank you so much.
One thing, if I could just tack on to the end there, social posts that have images or GIFs or videos with them are like 30 or 40% more likely to get clicks on them or to have people engage with them. And you guys probably have noticed that on your own social media. Your eye gets drawn to the color and the imagery. And again, you guys are in an industry where you have really pretty things to photograph. So sometimes I wish I did. But I would say that I agree with Angela. You using Canva is probably going to make your posts more engaging and also your lives a little bit easier. The other thing I sometimes recommend to clients, you know, Angela talked a lot about social posting and social post scheduling. And it does make your life a lot easier to schedule in advance. And you can get tools that will pull together everything in one platform, so you can just post all of it rather than having to go to each one. Generally, they're paid for, but one that is kind of an industry standard is called Buffer, Buffer. And that one has both. I think it has free and paid, depending on the number of accounts you need to post to. But you can do just about any social media posting on there. Instagram is a little clunky because Instagram makes their stuff a little clunky. But you can schedule Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all at once. And so we have used that in the past to make it easier so that somebody doesn't have to do the posting every day. Or on Twitter, we post like 5 times a day or something like that. So each day our Drew, my colleague, will go in and schedule all 5 Twitter posts. And then, you know, we basically set goals. How many Twitter posts are we going to do a day? How many Facebook or LinkedIn posts are we going to do per week or per month, depending on how much engagement we're looking for, and then schedule it all in advance. And it just makes that a lot easier, especially if you don't have a dedicated marketing team. Our CRM system, Dynamics, if you have the marketing package, that also has social posting, but Buffer is kind of one of the industry standards. So check it out, see if they have a free version that would work for you. If they don't, again, probably something like $10 a month for a paid version. It's just very nice. You don't have to go to every platform. So you won't be able to see the engagement with it. You'll still have to go to your actual, well, actually, I don't think that's true. I think you can see what the engagement was, number of likes, number of comments, etc. But you'll probably still have to open the actual platform if you want to like reply to people's Facebook comments. So that one can be nice.
I know another one too, and I didn't talk about it, is called Hootsuite. It's H-O-O-T, and then Suite like the S-U-I-T-E. I don't think there's a free one for that. I think it's totally paid for, but if you have the funds to do that and use it, I think that's an amazing way to go for sure.
That's Buffer's #1 competitor. And they started with Twitter, and I think they've added all of the other social media options as well. So both of those are really good. Really good.
And I would second what Jenna said too about I had it in my notes, I think somewhere, but I missed saying it about the visual stuff, because your brain recognizes an image like 60,000 times faster than words. So it's super important to have those images with the post. And it can be simple. It doesn't have to be a photo. It can be that graphic that I showed you. And that's showing, that's the podcast graphic. And so every time I do a new podcast episode, I'm going to use that graphic. And that's another thing. I didn't totally talk about podcasts, but there's so many new things that are happening too, that we just started doing podcasts at Region 5, and it's just a great way to share your story too. And we have, we talk about different things that we're doing. You can invite a guest and talk to them, and kind of, it just is a cool way to share information. And I know for me, I spend some time in the car when I am heading to the office or bringing the kids to school and heading back home. And so podcasts are getting really popular, and people have time to listen to them when they're driving, especially. So that's another thing to think about if you feel like you want to get into that space.
If you want to get really fancy with your images, use the little animate tool in Canva. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, I didn't show that.
You can make it into
Canva's amazing, you guys. I honestly, I would just recommend, I have a link, I think, in the resources page that I gave to Stacy that brings you to Canva to like their training stuff, and you can just watch that and check it out. But
yeah, we started using it. It's entertaining.
It's fun to play in there, I think.
It is. It's very fun to play. I'm with you. I think Canva's great. And we also use Adobe, I do graphic design, but Canva's just easy if you're going to just do it. You don't have to know a bunch of stuff. And you don't have to.
Yeah, I think that I think it's amazing just to do something quick. And honestly, I mean, I could do the same things I'm doing in Canva in Adobe, but it would take me longer. And so it doesn't make sense.
Thanks, guys. That was super helpful. And I think, well, same as every other time, we'll have the resources on our website, and I'll send stuff out, and this recording will be on the website as well. So you'll have access to everything, and the PowerPoints and all that stuff. So remember the evaluations. I'll send that out as well. Get those back to me. This is our last workshop. So I guess just know that. We also, I mentioned the email from Swan. She wants to meet with all of you to kind of talk about the wrap up of the audits. And she's thinking maybe about an hour. She was going to prepare a PowerPoint, and we could do it via Zoom. And so I'm wondering how you want to schedule this. We're thinking mid-October-ish. If that works for you guys, if there's any day in particular, if you want me to send out like a couple of days, like whichever one of those, I can't think of the name of it, or the date, to figure out the best date. But unless you can think of one right now, then we can just get on our calendars and have it good. But know that will be out there then as well. Let's see. I think that is all that I have. I will send out what I have, and then I will we'll figure out the day for the meeting with Swan for next month sometime, and the wrap up. And I think there was a lot of good information that she had as well from that. So is there any questions or any follow-up stuff that anybody needs?
Just wanted to thank all of you folks for these workshops. They've been very valuable.
Good. That's good. That's super. That's helpful to know, because that's why, I mean, we received the grant dollars because we thought this would be helpful for all of you guys. So yeah, and that's why those evaluations are super important too, because we said that we would be evaluating them. And okay.
I agree, and I'm really glad that they're also recorded and available on the website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's super helpful.
The only workshop that would be more helpful is, how do you create more time in the day? So when you schedule that one, would you make sure you put me on the invite list?
Yes, definitely. Yes, be on the lookout for that one.
I fell into playing with Canva and then never got the post done. If Canva was way too much fun, I didn't know what I was doing, but
that's funny.
Okay. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Stacy.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Good weekend, all.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.